question: when you look at the inequalities in America, in education, home ownership, employment and wealth, healthcare, can you admit that America is systemically and structurally a racist country?
I think culture has a lot to do with it, right? But it's more of, if you look at that, how do you fix it?
Because even when you say all men are created equal, no, they weren't, because we were labeled 3/5 of a human. Black people were.
Right. And we made that wrong right. And we've got some more rights we have to do. But so
systemically and structurally, do you think America is racist? Not the people, not everybody in America.
I don't think America's racist. I think we have racism in America,
and
I think we have cultural issues. But let me explain where I am. So first of all, I grew up in a town of 2,500 two stoplights. We were the only Indian family in that small southern town. We weren't white enough to be white. We weren't black enough to be black. They didn't know who we were, what we were, or why we were there. In that rural town, we didn't know what we didn't have. And so people just survived. I now have a education foundation in South Carolina where we do after school programs in all rural challenged areas, because you've got to give extra support to those areas that don't have. The goal is not what the circumstances are. How do you pull people out of those circumstances and lift them up?
Well, you can't hear what you don't reveal. So you have to acknowledge the history of this
You
country.
have to acknowledge that these things are happening, and how are you going to fix it?
Absolutely. Now, I wonder, why can't politicians, Democrat and Republican, because we've heard you say America's never been a racist country. We've heard the vice president say that before. We've heard OG Jim Clyburn say that before. We've heard Tim Scott say that before. Why can't Democrats and Republicans just be honest and tell people, hey, we can't have honest conversations about racism in this country because it's not a good electoral strategy?
I mean, that's not why I do it.
That's why.
No.
That's why everybody does it.
I have talked about racism as it affected me and how we need to get past it.
Perfect. Yes. Good evening. Good evening. And welcome to The Truth Behind the Truth. You just got a little bit of that truth going on. All right. Conversation that is having out here today. So as you can tell, we are going to elaborate on Miss Tricky Haley. Okay. Miss Tricky Haley. All right. Because she out here trying to trick folks. Okay. Trick her way to the White House. All right. But anyway, good evening, everyone, and welcome. We thank you so much for taking the time out to be a part of this wonderful evening with us and gathering information so that we can continue to empower you each week about what's going on leading up to the election and just life in general. Want to tell you next week to get here early next week, okay? We're kicking off wellness, all right? I won't say wellness month because wellness needs to be talked about quite often now in today's society. But we have special guests next week, Ms. Tamika Anderson. She is a wellness specialist. She's a life coach. So she's going to be dealing with different communities, typically focusing a lot on the Black and Brown community about things that you can do to help improve your life, your home, your children, your relationship with your creator, and everything else and above. So we're looking forward to that next week, along with that political platform that we have going on as well. All right, fellas, let's get in. Let's talk about Miss Tricky Haley. What you got to say about Miss Tricky Haley?
You know what? I'm not surprised by the answer. I'm not surprised. For those who was probably lost in what we are talking about, did not see the clip. Nikki Haley was on the Breakfast Club, and she was doing what she does best, explaining the situation of her not believing in systematic racism. Now, my thing is, I will say this woman has been governor, and I'm just going in for what it is. Mm-hmm. She has been a governor of South Carolina. South Carolina has always had a history of being a problematic state when it boils down to situations in history of slavery and of segregation, all that stuff. So she knows the history, the rich tradition of one of the first states that seceded from the Union before the Civil War, which started the Civil War. It has a rich history, a rich Confederate history. So she's still working towards that base. Mm-hmm. So, and to be honest with you, she got on the Breakfast Club and she explained why there is no such thing as systematic racism. Yes, we do have different cultures that are prejudiced. Mm-hmm. But the way she explained it was so problematic, and the fact that there was nobody to correct her or to combat what she was saying made it even worse. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know the Breakfast Club is more of an urban hip hop R&B station that has urban listeners, young listeners who are what voters, what we need to vote. We need young voters. They are of your independent voters. They are of the new vote. But to be honest with you, it was a very problematic situation because there was nobody there to educate her or to make her understand that there is a systematic situation when it boils down to racism. Okay. Yes, I think we should get past it, but we need to understand there is a history in it, and there is systems there that is knee deep in it that keeps certain people out and certain people in. Okay. And that's all I got to say on it. But yes, it was a bad look, not only for Nikki Haley, but for the Breakfast Club.
Okay, great. Sandy?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. She's delusional. You know, this is a woman that wants to be president, and I'm glad she's chipping away at Trump and giving him troubles. But, you know, that's the whole problem, to say something doesn't exist. You've got 40% of the country that is outright racist. So, you know, if there were 4 people in the country, then I think you could say, okay, the country's not racist. But when, you know, 40% of the country doesn't want something, and they don't want black, they don't want Jews, they don't want gays, they don't want lesbians, they don't want, you know, they don't want trans, they don't want, then we have racism, and we're a racist country, and we're going to be that way until everybody decides to love and accept everybody else for who they are and what they are, and just go, I'm good with you, man.
Right. I agree. I totally agree. Darnell?
I just say everything she said up and say just seemed to be like one. I think it comes from her mind, her world, and what she feels it is. Because I don't think she actually see things for what they actually are. I think she see it from. She's still, when she say things like she was saying, "Oh well, I came from." You're going off of an experience from a family who is a Indian descent, or whatever the case may be. So you can't speak for all people. You can only speak for just you, your family, and how you felt in this small place. You know, I think that she live in a pretty delusional world, like a majority of those politicians do. I think that she's another Trump in the making, and that's it.
Right. Okay. Charles?
Here we go. All right, so I kind of get what she's saying, because at the end of that clip, we didn't get a chance to see the whole thing. She says she don't want children to believe that the country's racist. Right. And she don't want to expose them to it because she feels like it'll corrupt them from the beginning. But one thing I've learned about children is they would prefer to have the truth versus the fairy tale. Because you tell them it's Santa Claus and they find out later it isn't, and they're mad at you for lying to them for all these years. Right. Because like, you could just tell me the truth. Why are you lying to me? So, you know, we have to consider the fact that she changed her name. She doesn't have that much pride in her heritage. She changed the name from what it originally was, so she was seen more white. Same with Ted Cruz. He changed his name. He won't go by his birth and given name. So, you know, this thing is sort of awkward because as we were talking in our production meeting, the MAGA crew, and this happens all the time, the blacks for Trump got in the MAGA broadcast and they got thrown out because the guy didn't want them in there voicing their opinions. And it happens to black folks every time they do this Trump thing. They get in there and they think they're with the group, and then they get kicked out and go, well, why me? You know why? They don't want you there in the first place. So why are you so shocked that this is how it happens? You know, just like 50 Cent says, why this $54 million program up in New York is for Trump, which makes us think, why not Trump? Well, 50, you should do more research and understand how that actually works. Right. Because you're not getting all the details. Right. You're not privy to what is actually going on. And if you get the details, and we know 50 likes to stir up trouble. He likes to be messy. But in a situation like this, when you have a platform as large as his, you can't throw just anything out there and just go figure it out.
Exactly.
You know what? Do anybody know of John C. Calhoun?
Yes.
Do anybody know the politician John C. Calhoun? He was a statesman from South Carolina. He was considered one of the most racist statesmen from South Carolina. And he was the one who wanted slavery to be still an institution within the United States of America. Most racists, most Confederate racists loved the platform that John C. Calhoun stood for. And he is celebrated in the state that she was governor,
Right.
South Carolina.
Right.
So I'm saying what she is saying and what she is explaining is delusional because she knows of that rich heritage. She knows of that rich
Well, I
culture.
wouldn't say rich.
It is a rich culture.
Well, what I mean,
It is. In South Carolina, because of the fact that they had to remove those Confederate statues, because they were one of they were combating that to the hilt. Because they got rid of the Confederate statues, they got rid of the slave monuments there, the slave auction block. So because of that situation, they want to get rid of the situation that they held highly as an institution for states' rights. But what I'm saying is, you cannot sit there and tell me that I don't believe in systematic racism when you had parents who couldn't find a job in a PWI college but had to go to an HBCU college. You cannot tell me there is no such thing because there is an electoral college. The electoral college was invented because most slave states didn't have enough citizens to vote to get their presidents in because they didn't have enough white people there. There were mostly slaves that took up most of the population within those southern states. Why do we still have the electoral college? I don't understand why we haven't dismantled it, but that is part of the institutional racism of this country. We don't need it. So to sit there and tell me I don't believe that this country is racist, all right, we don't have system. Come on now, give me a break. We understand who you throwing that red meat to is your southern base, the good old boy club. There is a good old boy club to this day in certain states. That's why you don't get but only red votes. That's true. So I wish people would stop lying and people need to do their research. Number one, Americans, those people need to do their research. I'm just saying.
Well, very, very clear point. I mean, the research, yes, number one, high on the priority list because people nowadays, because they have this little screen in front of them, thinks that they have the license to put out propaganda at any given time. It has no research, no fact, or haven't even lived through anything. But
look up John C. Calhoun. If you are listening to this, look up John C. Calhoun. He is an iconic figure in South Carolina till this day. And these people still use his words as bait for racism. And I'm going to keep it moving.
So, great points there. So let me just get my little spin on Tricky Haley. Well, okay. See, Tricky Haley.
Thank you, cousin Tawana. Abolish the electoral college.
Right, exactly. That needs to be happening. So my thing is like now there are portions of the conversation you got to pull out. You got to take the meat with bones or whatever the case may be. However, there was a lot of fat around what she was saying, so there wasn't that too much meat there you to pull from. But the portion of the little bit of the meat that was there, so I do kind of sort of like halfway agree with the fact is that the presentation of educating today's society about how this country is should be on the platform.
Pull up the diaphragm. Pull up the diaphragm, Charles.
Okay. However, and I think that needs to be addressed because it is a conversation that is not being had in its manner. And then when that conversation is being able to be presented in a school setting, you've got Stupid DeSantis down in Florida. You've got Abba Dabba Dabbit in Texas, that is trying to prevent these type of conversations to be had. On the forefront right now, Stupid DeSantis down in Florida trying to do that. So it is very vital and important to have this conversation with young people and share where the narrative of what happens or how the division in this country is still reigning, and why is it still reigning? It's because the hearts and the minds of men have not changed. You've got a group of people, typically the certain sector of white community, feel that if they let the black man, the Jewish man, the Hispanic man, the Asian man get to a place in power, that they're going to lose all power that they think that they have over people right now. But the bottom line is they really don't have power. We give them power in terms of our behavior, but they don't. Because if in 1 second, if we all got on one page and moved like them assholes, I'm sorry, did I say that? Them assholes did last year, 3 years ago at the Capitol, they wouldn't know what to do with. You know what I'm saying? Into that type of allegiance that went on, But anyway, so back to that particular point about Tricky Haley. So that little portion of that she said, in that conversation, okay, I can give her that. Now I'm gonna move on to the other part of the conversation she had. What was that one? Then when she tried to, who was that on? What NBC or something she was on, and she tried to symbolically say that former President Obama's administration was a point of complete separation for the company. How stupid can you sound? I mean, honestly, in the history of the Americas as what we know it to be, there was more sense of reckoning between people than it had ever been at any given time in an administration of 8 years. Okay, because I think the night he won, if you go out to Wrigley Field in Chicago, Illinois, it was just not one race that it was celebrating that man becoming in office. You know, during the inauguration, okay, of course, you know, that jerk wanted to say that his inauguration, the 5 people he had there could outweigh the millions that former President Obama had. So anyway, just kind of wrap this up because we got to go to break. We got to take stuff like that in stride. You know, as you said, we've definitely got to do the research. And people, when you hear stuff coming from Tricky Haley and the Cheeto and all the rest of these ones that are out there, do your research. Okay, please do your research. We got more to talk about. But as we go to break, okay, we're going to go ahead and do our memoriam at this particular point in time to recognize the individuals that have transitioned, particularly some very powerful people in the industry. You know, I mean, just, oh man, each one of them touched me, you know, in such a special way. You know, we want to mention, you know, Broadway legend. Oh my gosh. I mean, if you're ever a fan of Broadway, you know, we want to talk about Chita Rivera. Wow. I mean, this woman has just has lit up the stage from even down to playing our favorite show, Gypsy. You know, playing Mama Rose and Gypsy. You know, oh my gosh, just such a beautiful woman and gracious and well loved by so many people. You know, she transitioned this week. I think it was 91, 94, 93 this week. Another Broadway legend, Hinton Battle. My goodness. If you ever saw The Wiz, the original Wiz, he was a scarecrow in the original Broadway, you know, show of The Wiz. 2 Broadway legends. He also went on to Sophisticated Ladies as well, and Dream Girls. Yeah, and on to Dream Girls as well as in the Dream Girls, the movie itself. You know, so great salute to Hinton Battle. A job well done, people. And finally, I mean, hey, this man, Carl Weathers. You know, this was a surprise. This really was a surprise. Action Jackson. I mean, from where the Creed franchise came from him being Creed, you know, in the Rocky movies, and just all of the accomplishments that he did, you know, throughout his career. Man, all of them were surprises this week, but I think his was the most surprise because nobody expected it. You know, nobody expected. He transitioned day for yesterday in his sleep. You know, but anyway, as we go to break, we want to keep it just go to break in silence, and you know, as we pay respect to these wonderful people. All right, and we are back, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Truth Behind the Truth, and I hope that you had a moment to send, you know, your well wishes to the universe on behalf of those great people. All right, let's go ahead and dig in. I think we're gonna talk about Mr. Tyrese next, you know, and his antics. You know, me with Tyrese, I mean, he's just all in and out. I mean, this brother, man, you know. Speaking of mental health, I think that he needs to be on the first of the candidate to really talk to some therapist. You know, I mean, really, honestly, he really needs to talk to a therapist because was it 3 years ago that he was crying about Will Smith not paying his bills off for him?
Let's just say this, Tyrese. Now, this is Black History Month, and you know, it's a very sad report, but it's something that I call it BS news because this is definitely bullshit news. So this story comes from a post that he posted. And I'm going to try to read this the best way I know how. He says, sometimes I wish I was born Latino. I mean, the Latin community is grounded in family, loyal entrepreneurs, businessmen and women literally represented the dream, the grind, the hustle, doing whatever it takes to stick together. Is there any way we can put more of that up, Charles? If there's any more of that up, well, I might have to do this too. Give me a minute, y'all. I apologize for this. But the saddest thing about this is, you know, I understand that everybody in this country have a certain cultural nuance. We all come from different spectrums of culture. You know, thank God we have Sandy here. He's Jewish. We all that are here are African Americans. We all have a way of doing things within our community that is totally different. Some of us it's different, but you know, it's the same. But my issue with him was he tried to come with the attitude of that, and it was a broad stroke. I'm not going to discount what he said because there's some things I have issue with within the African American community, and there is a certain tribe within this community that is problematic. Right. But you know what? Mainstream loves to go with problematic because it sells whatever agenda that they're trying to sell. Right. But my thing is with this information that he gave out about we're not together, we love to move on traumatic situations, drama. Don't broad stroke. Stop broad stroking a whole community. I come from a family. Yes, we have our issues, but to be honest with you, it's different from what the media likes to portray. Yeah. But everybody has these issues within their own communities. Why is it that you're preaching to us, but you should have said it's a human situation, it's a human crisis, it's a mental illness crisis that is going on. Stop making it more of a black issue and make it a human issue. That's my grief with it. But go ahead, whoever want to take this up.
Go ahead, Darnell.
Well, let's just go back to like I was saying earlier. I feel like when he was speaking, I don't think people have time to sit back and just pick, oh, well, my family is this, but this is what, because then it gets to a place that it becomes entirely too much. You open up a whole nother Pandora's box. I think he was just speaking on a broad spectrum, just saying the culture, period. And people turn, as we always do, because I can speak for my people, we always go up in arms about stuff or whatever the case may be, because they say, hit dog will holler. And I say again, I don't see anything wrong with the fact of it, because when it comes down to it, a lot of us, we do not actually support each other the way that we should. We don't. I mean, that's just that. We don't support each other. And then we might support each other while we're the small person. But once we turn around and you see that person start to elevating and getting to a place, guess what? Now you go into the fact of, oh, he think he better than Westtown, or oh, she thinks she doing this. Or you get a new house. Oh, do you see that little house? Not giving the credit, because that's just how we do. And then we'll say, well, you know, that's how we, you know, we've been conditioned to be that way. Guess what? You can uncondition yourself to be that way too, but you yet still choose to be that way. So I say again, I don't see anything wrong with what he said. That's just me.
Right. Well, go ahead, Charles. I'll make my point to conclude.
Let me read this before you go, Charles. He said this: if us as a black culture was more grounded in these integral, magical nuances of us, we would be dominant. I've learned a lot from the Jewish community, sticking together, eating dinner every Friday together. I've learned a lot about the Muslim community through all my travels in the Middle East. They have a father structure where they honor their fathers in the Middle East. The thinking and the mentality is what we should rather have, a son over a daughter, because they know that there is nothing like the leadership of a father and a man being the head of the household. One more thing, and I'm going to let this go. I have no idea how we lost our way. We can't get anything done and accomplished as a fragmented culture, insecure, threatened by each other, competitive towards our own race, killing ourselves every single day over frivolous things. The majority of us as black men and millions are locked up in prison. The thing about that is I can agree. I can agree with it to a certain extent, but I wish it was not only a black thing, but a human thing. Charles, go ahead.
I agree with him too. But this is the thing about that, and I get it, because we always say, why don't people get over it? Breaking generational curses is not as easy as it may seem. And being that this is Mental Health Awareness Month, let's just stick with it. I'm a mental wellness person. I've been going through therapy for a few years now, dealing with my issues from growing up in Chicago, my issues from being in the military, surviving a plane crash on my ship, to I've been through some stuff. So when people used to tell me, man, just suck it up. So I thought for a long time I was sucking it up till one day I broke. And I had to go seek help. And it was like, you've been going through this for a while. This isn't just happening. You've been dealing, you've been coping. And most times, like most people, I drank a lot. I thought that was just numbing it, but it wasn't numbing it. It was just putting a Band-Aid on a knife wound. And too many people think that you just get over things. You don't just get, if that was the case, racism be gone.
Right.
You can't just change things because you say you want to change them. The thing is, we have to want to change, and we have to accept change. And too many people aren't. I don't take it as doing something tremendous because I went to seek help. I take it as I finally saw something was wrong with me. I needed some help. I had no one but me. So when you get to that point that you feel like you're not you, that commercial says it best. You hold up the smiley face. And you hide behind it.
Right.
Maybe it's the life of the party, but they don't see me when I go home and get drunk and fall asleep in the bed with my clothes on because I'm out of it. They don't see none of that. So you just think that someone can just,
I hear what
Right.
you're saying, Charles.
So I want to take this a little shift in. So Sandy, kind of elaborate the audience and us really, I think, how and we can all tie this together at different points. So, and with all of the anti-Semitism that is always on a regular basis coming at the Jewish community and things, how do you, or maybe your brother and sister or your family, or even maybe just take a minute to say that the beauty how your dad navigated through things, being the icon that he has, that he was in the Hollywood arena, how did he teach you guys, in that sector about, because it was, just as prevalent then as it is now, at the end of the day. So kind of share that with us real quick.
Well, before I get into that, Charles, thank you for sharing. Bringing something out and talking about it and saying, hey, this happened to me. This is where I'm at. I sought help or counseling or conversation or whatever. Then it lets somebody else out there know, hey, it's okay to talk about it and say, I might have a problem. It's okay to talk to someone. It's okay to look for help.
Right.
So I think one of the problems that starts, and Charles mentioned earlier about kids, about racism with kids. We don't want to, Nikki Haley says, well, we don't want to teach our kids racism. We don't teach our kids racism. Kids don't have racism. They get it from home and bring it to school because that's where they're learning it. If you took, there's from years ago, there's a picture of in a hospital of a black baby and a white baby, and they're in the incubator and they're holding each other. They don't know anything about racism. They just know about companionship, and they're supporting one another. So it's not until we educate them to hate or to dislike or to be mad at or to be jealous or to be anything else that the problems start. So it's not that we don't want to talk to our kids about racism. We're the ones the parents are the ones that are sending them to school and turning them into racists.
Absolutely.
So when you talk about the other questions that you asked me, and Charles, thank you very much for sharing, because for those who are watching us, we don't know each other except for this hour a week that we spend together here. And then we do we start doing an hour a week of prep where we talk. But, I don't hang out with you guys every day and know your life story and know who you are, we just talk here in conversation. So I love to hear those things, and I thank you for sharing. And I go, I think as a whole, all of us have our own, everybody has their own problems, but then they come back and they tell you, well, if everybody took their problems and put them in a pile, you'd reach out and grab your own and pull those back. Because when you hear somebody else's problems, you go, I'm good with mine. I don't want, because we know how to deal with those.
Right.
And when you talk about the situation of my father and anti-Semitism and stuff like that, I don't know that I'm the one to answer that, because yes, I'm Jewish. My father was Jewish. Certainly, I have experienced anti-Semitism the way you guys have experienced racism. I don't compare the two. They're very different. But they're both horrendous.
Yes.
To be disliked or impugned in some way because of the color of your skin or what you believe in or something like that. But I also can't be, and I don't want to call it white privilege, but people loved my father, and being around him, he was like the Pillsbury Doughboy. People would go, buddy, and they'd want to pinch his cheek, and they would hit him and want to grab his, and it was. And you think it's cute, but when you're the victim of that, everybody grabbing you and pinching on you, you're going, hey, get the fuck off of me.
Right.
And I remember sitting at lunch with my dad on more occasions than I can count. And as a little kid, and my dad is sitting in the middle, and we would put him like in the booth, or they'd come across us to get to him. And someone in the summertime, they'd raise their, hey, just sign my thing here. And a big armpit would be right in my face. And I'm going, oh my God, it smells awful. And so people are just unaware of, oh, the hell with the kid. I just want Buddy's autograph or his attention, or I want a picture with him. And nowadays, everybody wants a selfie. Hey, can I grab a selfie with you? And they'll walk over you. So I don't have answers for you, except can't we all, and when I say all, everybody, be a little bit more sensitive about the people around us, how we treat each other, what we can do, how we can help one another, the pay it forward thing. Boy, there is no point in my life where I've done something nice for someone else that it hasn't come back to me in some other way. And it doesn't matter who they are, what they are, if they're down and out, if they were well off. I had the weirdest thing happen today. My wife took her car in for service, and we go for service. And in the thing they had, while you're waiting, they got a coffee machine. So there was a guy in there, and he's driving. Go ahead. What, Dylan?
I got to ask you this question, Sandy. As a Jewish man living in these times in the Jewish community or whatever, is there a certain nuance of the Jewish community that you cannot stand, or that gets on your nerves, or that is so problematic to the point that you would put broadcast it for everybody to hear, or to analyze, or to dissect? Is there anything that you just cannot stand about your community? I just want to know, because I have never heard anything negative from a standpoint of a cultural standpoint about the Jewish community from a Jewish person's standpoint. So is there anything that you have that you want to share that you cannot stand? Because we talk about Black folks all the time on this show. Right. We do. Right. But I have never heard anybody say anything bad about the Jewish community from a Jewish standpoint.
Or do you think I'm going to say something?
Now, just like that. Now, now did y'all see that?
Are you kidding me?
Wait a minute now, hold on. You just did something that I like. Audience, and especially Black ones, did you see what he just did?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it makes all the sense in the world. You do not air your dirty laundry to the world. Right. That's the problem. That's what we're talking about, Sandy.
It's not about airing dirty laundry. It's about when we get into this statement, and the guy that you put up before that said, I appreciate the brown culture, the Mexican culture. That's a generalization. And if we're going to sit here and generalize, there's 330 million people in this country.
Right.
How do you generalize and go, all the Mexicans are perfect?
Right.
Or all the Jews are whatever they
are
rich,
basically are controlling everything. Right. And that's my problem with this. I'm so tired of the culture, and I know you don't understand where it's really a situation that triggers me, because I don't like to air my dirty laundry to everybody, right. But it's always 6 o'clock news, right? But the community.
Well, there's a very good point. I appreciate the humor.
Yeah, it was an honest humor. Right. Yeah, it was.
Somehow that's how we get through the things. Going, if I can make my enemy laugh, right. And they go, "You're okay. Maybe we could be friends." And I go, ultimately, you're going to find out we're pretty much the same.
Oh,
basically,
absolutely. So let me say this. So the great thing about what you said, what he said. Here's the truth behind the truth in that. He says, "Why would you reveal it in the first place? Why would you say it in the first place? Okay, if somebody was opposing that, why would you air the dirty laundry or whatever the case may be in the first place?"
Well, I disagree with you there, JB.
Okay.
What Charles did is Charles came out and told us some of the stuff in his life, and I go, hey, are there problems with Jews? There are problems with everybody.
Right.
But can I give you a blanket statement? Yes, Jews are supposedly we're cheap. We're not cheap. It's a what do you call?
There's a stereotype.
Urban legend.
Thank you. It's a stereotype put on there. But if I'm on stage as a comedian and I talk about being Jewish and being cheap or whatever like that, you know, then I can use the stereotype to my advantage to find a joke. But now we're in this politically correct thing where nobody can say anything about anybody, and we've lost our sense of humor. And I go, oh my God. I mean, we all know someone, black, white, green, red, blue, orange, purple, that's cheap, because that's what that person is. They're cheap. But why are they cheap? They're cheap because they don't have a lot of money. They didn't grow up with it. They don't know how to spend it. They work hard for it. They don't have enough to take care of other people. They can be cheap for a million reasons, but you can't just say to them as a group, you're cheap. We can say it about the Jews and say it as in a sense of humor, but we can't say it in reality and go, they're all cheap. Because when you look at this great world, there are builders and buildings and things with Jewish names on them and black names on them and Indian names on them and all kinds of people that have donated to society. So that kills your stereotype of that they're all cheap or whatever, or that so and so is lazy, or that so and so is a bitch, or whatever we want to say. You know,
but you know what, Sandy, I hear what you're saying, and it makes sense. But my thing with this, and we're gonna let this story go. My issue with Tyrese saying what he said is now a Republican talking point. No fathers in the household. Now, you know, and why is there no fathers in the house? And this is from what he's saying that's going on within the black community. I'm just saying it's problematic. It's something that we don't need to air out, because that's a problem, that's an issue as a community that we need to discuss within the community. But to air it out for public consumption is so disrespectful. And it breaks the foundation of what it is that we are as a people, because we all didn't live in this world without fathers. There are fathers in the household, and I'm gonna let it go. But that is my issue. Is a Republican talking point right now, and I think black folks need to be mindful of it.
I think at any point that it's always going to be a political point.
Yes,
But I mean, because they're gonna you can use anything anybody says to that point. I think the thing here, and I know we got to go to break, and we've got to celebrate our Black History moment here. Charles, as Sandy said, really brilliant for being able to share your transparency, you know, and what you would want to. I think personally is that we do need to get to the point of the Charleses. So I'm saying in society, to be able to be transparent about what we're going through, what we've experienced, and things like that. But in the process, taking ownership of that. The problem that I see with what Tyrese presented that is that where do I fall in the game of this? You know, rather than point. Because we can sit all day long and point out things that are wrong with the community. We can point out, say that, you know, the fatherless and all these type of things. And yes, that does need to be addressed. But as you stated, in an open forum, it doesn't do that. You've got to either going to come together with a group of people, say, I'm going to take charge for the community. I'm going to start teaching young men, you know, how to be fathers if they find themselves in that, how to be supportive. Number one is not getting involved in illicit relationships that you keep creating children when you don't need to be creating children. So let's start with that. You know what I'm saying? And then go for that particular teaching. And we know where that teaching should have been started.
And my question I pose to that is this. So you're saying all these things and telling somebody to do all these one things or whatever the case may be. That's just like us telling our sons to go and do X, Y, and Z. We can tell them whatever the hell we want to tell them. They're not going to do it. So you just basically speaking. He's basically made a broad, because if you go with our culture, it could be a laundry fucking list for years of shit. So he just made one whole community because he's a part of that community.
Right.
So everybody want to break this down and want to make, he should have did this or he should have did that. Guess what? You gonna sit back and read a 2-hour something that he wrote?
Right.
He just made a broad of our community because he is a part of the community.
Right.
He can't
Right.
speak for nothing else. He said he wished that our community was like this community, that community, this community, that community. He spoke the parts that he felt was great about that community that he wished that we could embrace in ours.
Right.
He didn't say that the people that in the community wasn't doing it. He just said he wished that our community as a whole could do those things.
Right.
And
Well-
we, as we always do, we turn around and we got to nitpick it and we got to turn it and we got to twist it because we're wicked like that.
Well, that becomes to a problematic situation, and I know that we cannot fully dissect that, in this conversation tonight, because one thing or one small portion opens up another doorway, and then we can step into and continue to having a conversation about it. So we're gonna table it, okay? For now, I think this is something that we can explore a little bit more next week when Tamika is here, because she will be able to have the answers in a more of a traumatic situation, because she deals with that and counseling people, in a wellness position, in the community and outside of the community, to get a better understanding or clarity about who they are. So we're gonna move on, talk to about our Black History. Of course, guys, this is Black History Month. Each week, and maybe twice in that same week, we're gonna be celebrating people that are living. Okay, people that are thriving right now, people that we can make reference to, people that you can, if you wanted to pick up the phone and call them and talk about their success. This is one of the ways that, as you mentioned, Darnell, and going back to what's his name, Tyrese was saying, and all of that type of stuff. Gosh, I lost the thing where it was supposed to be. I'm sorry. With that, so this is the reason why we're taking the opportunity to go that way now. We want to celebrate people that are here, people that are accomplishing things right in the community that they live, in their homes and their families. These are people that are making history now, because each day you do something well, you're creating another level of history. But we want to take the opportunity right now to celebrate our brother, okay? And my cohort, my brother, I know his accomplishments. We're going to read a little bit about his bio and show a few of his pictures. But we really want to celebrate tonight my brother, and I'm going to call him Doctor. Dr. Atlanta's best kept secret, Charles McIntosh. Go right here.
Charles McIntosh.
Yes, Charles.
Actor, director, executive producer, and writer. Born March 30th, 1961 in Chicago, Illinois. He has worked with the likes of Terrence Howard, Tyler Perry, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. He has also written for scores of television shows for cable TV, primetime TV shows. He has did a lot of community work as well. He has did some also a lot of influence on us. To be honest with you, I want to say this, Charles, and this is coming from the heart. Brother, you have been the greatest support for this foundation of Truth Behind the Truth. You have been there, you have did the work, you have tried and have been patient with us. And I would say you are Black history, because you have made multiple changes, not only in your life in making strides, but in our lives as well. And we say, thank you, Charles McIntosh. You are Black history. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
And plus, y'all,
Bring some tissue. Somebody bring me some tissue, please.
Wait a minute, Charles. One more thing. And also, for the United States, he served in the Navy.
Right, yes.
So he is a veteran.
Yes.
That's
That's history right
that's
there.
history
Black
in
history
itself.
right
That
there.
is Black history.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
thank you. You are Black history.
Go ahead, Charles, you can go to commercial if you want at this point.
touch the ground. Yeah, I'm flying. Yeah, I'm
All right, and we
Yes,
are
that's
back,
the
guys.
truth. That is
Yes.
the truth behind the truth. We need leaders not in love with money,
Right.
but in love with justice.
Right.
Not in love with publicity, but in love with humanity. And that is from Reverend Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yes,
oh my
indeed.
goodness.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
So anyway, man, it has been, it is good. I'm trying to pull myself together from Charles Accolade. Charles, you've been making me cry over here. But it is, I mean, but it is beautiful to, to be able to celebrate, your own, and their accomplishments. And I think that those of you that are seeing the show tonight should take this and find somebody in your family or in your community or, whatever, to celebrate them as their Black history, as your hero for this month of Black history. Because, hey, Harry done what she gonna do, was it Rosa stood up and sat down. Okay, so, so we can't go back and get Rosa, for what she did, at the end of the day, and the list goes on, all right?
List goes on.
And
Well, this month I'm gonna do a Niecy Nash.
you know what, I can with you.
But you know
I'm
what,
gonna do a Niecy Nash. I'm celebrating me.
Okay, there you go. Well, that was, we talked about it the other day too about celebrating. But
Charles, do me a favor, put up that diagram of the
okay, go ahead.
Diagram. Let's put up the chart of the government. Okay, y'all, this is so important because we were talking about this at a family function that I came from before this show, and it's something that needs to be discussed around dinner tables and in classrooms within these United States. The Constitution, we have three forms of the government, of the governmental branch that makes up, of our government, what makes our country work. Now, this right here, the legislative, the executive, and the judicial, I know nobody knows nothing.
Not this damn time.
Nothing about this.
Not this damn time.
And what is so sad is, let me ask you the question. What is the executive branch? Now, we see it right here. It says at the bottom that it's the president and the vice president. Nobody knows too much about that. The judicial, some people might know. So the Supreme Court, the legislative, is the Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. The legislative, for everybody, you have to understand, in order for laws to be created and to be written, they have to go through the legislative branch.
Process.
They have to be processed and voted through the House of Representatives and also through the Senate. That sends it to the executive branch, which is the president and the vice president, to sign. Now, if there's ever a situation where the president makes an executive order and it goes against the branches of or it goes against the Constitution, you need the judicial, which is the Supreme Court, to combat that or to agree with it. So for those who are watching this show, please understand, in this government, we have a democracy. We do not live in a totalitarian government, which consists of one leader, one society, and no government. It's just one leader by himself. We live in a democracy. It is one of the most fragile constitutions, the most fragile works of government in the world. Y'all, if you don't vote, you will lose all three of these.
Yeah.
Except for the executive.
All politics is local.
No, you'll lose the executive. What's the
executive?
You would just have a dictator.
Right. Well, yeah, that becomes.
You will lose all three of these.
You lose it too.
Hey, Dylan.
What's up?
Did you say that the law has to be signed by the president and the vice president?
No, by the president.
Okay, I thought you said the vice president too.
If I did, I stand. It's by the president.
You got to understand, there's a purpose for this. It's a checks and balances. This is the whole purpose of it, so that nobody gets to run the country. The president is a figurehead. He's not the king. He's not the dictator. He's not the boss of me. He's just the president, and he's out front for the country. He's a representative of the country that stands out front and basically stands for what we stand for. And we too much we get focused in on the president didn't do this and the president didn't do that. He doesn't have that type of power.
Right.
There are what they call it, loopholes, like executive privilege, where he can invoke things to executive order, but he doesn't rule the country. That's the reason why Trump couldn't take over the country, because we have these checks and balances. Without those, any knucklehead can come in and just rule the country, just
Right.
take over. And
So
it's
why are we asking for the president to make to demolish or to demand a ceasefire in Gaza when he
Because-
has no control
Because
over that?
People, they don't know
Why
that
are
they-
we asking only for the president to do something when we have the House of Representatives
Right. Well, these
and we
people-
have
these
the
people-
Senate?
Well, these people are not doing their job. Number one, at the end of the day, and then the other part is that we have in society that people
Mhm.
have not been taught and learned civics. You just gave a civics lesson right here. Okay, so anybody that watched the show, particularly, they could just take this segment and put it in front of their kids and let them understand what's going on, how to understand, or put it in front of the adults, because half the adults out here speaking the garbage they do don't understand this process. You know, so so therefore, we have just given a truth behind the truth history lesson
that's
on what needs to happen during Black History Month. Thank you, Black man. Sandy, go Sandy, go ahead. Just kind of dig in a little bit before we wrap tonight on the political spectrum that you kind of observed this week that we may not have touched on.
Well, the problem that you're talking about here with us asking our president to ask for a ceasefire is he's the representative of the country.
Right.
So someone has to be the leader of the free world, which our guy is. In this case, it's Biden. Before it was Trump, but we want the responsibility of asking Israel to have a ceasefire. But Israel also can say, no, there will be no ceasefire. So, you know, we can ask the president, but that's not up to Congress. The only thing Congress can do is say, we're not going to fund what the president wants to give you. And then you're going to have to either accept that the ceasefire or not. But it's very political, and there's a lot of things. And of course, what we've learned about the Republicans lately is they don't give two shits about governing. All they want to do is gum up the works.
Right.
You know, so they don't care about what's right, what's wrong. As long as I'm in power and I can decide and make a law, I'm not here for that.
Right.
I'm here to fuck up the works.
Right. True. So true.
That's why we can't get an immigration bill passed. Darnell?
And that's a key example, that immigration. They complained about it through Obama. They complained about it through Trump. They complained about it through Biden. Now they have a chance to do it. And what they say, nah, you're not going to do it right now. Can't do it. Oh, wait a while. But you complained about how it wasn't
telling
done.
them, don't fix it. I want to fix it when I get there. I want to be able to blame Biden for something, but it's not going to work that way.
Right.
Go ahead, Darnell.
You know what's crazy? If you remember, and I'm pretty sure they did the same thing when you was in school too, Dollar. In order to be able to graduate, you had to take government economics.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
and now they don't even have it at all.
Right.
And I think if they had it, a lot of these kids would know that it was a chain of command. You have people in places to do this. That's why you have the government. Otherwise, it'll just be free for all. You just do what you want to do, how you want to do it. You know, or we will be in dictatorship.
I'm so old that we had to do a constitution test in order to graduate. We could have all A's, but if we didn't pass that constitution test, we didn't graduate.
And
Just
here's
that
the
simple.
problem, because Dylan said it earlier. He said everybody needs to do their research. However, in order to research, you have to be educated. You have to read. You have to know how to look and find. You have to know what the hell you're looking for to find. So unless we teach these kids what the hell we're going, I can research. I can look it up on Google. They don't know what to look up on Google except who's hot. Well, what's his passion?
Exactly.
What's the new song? Not how do I make a law? Not how do I stop this? How do I do that? Look, we can sit here and complain all night long.
I mean, let's just say this. The millennials are now the parents these days. I can't even blame this on the boomers right now. But the millennials, I feel like at the end of the day, if you're a parent, you should teach your children this at home. It should not be always on the school or on the teacher. It should be a thing within the house. It should be a conversation.
Dylan, what's the matter with you? You assume that the parents at home know what you you're asking them to teach. What the hell's wrong with you? Why do you think they're not teaching it? They don't know it.
You can't teach folks when you don't know.
Well, you know, and I don't want to take. I love the humor that would make, but it's a very serious humor.
Yeah,
You know, in the
it's
midst of it.
serious humor,
But I will
yeah.
want to say this real quick. We'll go ahead. Right. You know, it is so disheartening. You speaking about the generation that our parents at this particular point in time. There was, and Charles, thank you for circling that around on Instagram this week from the African lady. You know what at her podcast, which I don't agree with, but you know, but her her perspective on things. But she brought to front a very sad story. Okay, and you know I hate to bring it in, but it's kind of apropos to what we're talking about. She's a teacher, and she's only 22 years old. She's a ballet teacher. She's 22 years old, and she is so disheartened as to what she is seeing out of these children. Now, we ain't talking about teenagers. We're talking about these children, 4 and 6, between 4, 6, and 9 years old. They're coming to school. I'm coming to her class, asking her to teach them how to do a pound time. Can in those of you who don't know what that is, look it up. Okay, that's a little bit of research for you to find out about that. What you are allowing to become through in the music genre that's coming through to these, and these kids are hearing this. They're hearing it from their parents. They want to hear how to ski wheat. Okay, this it's even too below the opportunity right here on this show to even talk about what that is. Okay, but it's coming from an artist named Nasty Red. Okay, it's coming from another called Megan Thee Stallion. Okay, it's coming from Mickey Minucci. Okay, and all of the rest of them that I'm being funny. You know I'm being funny about it because I can't stand it. I really can't. They know I can't. I didn't get into it tonight like I normally like to. Okay, but it's coming from them. And parents, you are allowing.
Talk about this. Sexy Red too much. That woman to send us a cease
know,
and
right?
desist.
But you parents are allowing this to happen. You know, and you're responsible. Lastly, about this, so this young lady said that she brought she was reprimanding one of the kids in her class, and the child said, "I don't have to do what you tell me to do, and I don't like you." And it's kind of giving her all the third and everything. So the teacher called the parent in. The parent told the teacher, "Well, she must don't like what you tell her. That's why she told you that. She has the right to tell you what she want to tell you anytime she get ready, in front of the child, in front of the teacher." Okay, I know somebody that's in this room right now would have slapped somebody's teeth out their mouth if they would say that to them. Okay, now be for real. So parents, at the end of the day, we're going to end it with this. Parents, at the end of the day, you got the damn responsibility to do what's going on. You're at fault for if Trump get back in office, which he ain't. But if he got back in office, it's your fault, okay? Because you have not educated your children, you have not educated your community, and number one, you have not educated yourself. But you got the opportunity to do it tonight. Go back, listen to this show, as we encourage you to do every week. We are here bringing you what? The truth behind the truth. All right? Y'all have a powerful night. Thank you for being here, Sandy. Good to see you. Darnell, Charles, much love to you again. Black History, we salute you, and we will see you next week with Miss Tamika Anderson. Have a good night, y'all. Bye.